Hello everyone, I'm Arafat. I teach history on the textbook platform. In the previous strategy session, we have discussed the 8 essentials to clear the UPSC examination. One of the 8 essentials which we discussed was going through the previous year questions. The exercise of going through the previous year questions helps the aspirants in identifying important areas for the examination. So in this session, let us take a look at previous year questions, particularly at the level of prelims. We will confine ourselves only to the history related questions. So before I discuss any more details, let me first describe the nature of UPSC examination. If I have to describe UPSC in one word, I would say taking the aspirants by surprise and has been the nature of UPSC examination. Let me explain this with the help of an example. Take a look at this table. In 2014, that is in 2014, UPSC has asked about 8 questions in history in prelims. Of these 8 questions, 4 were from modern India and the remaining 4 were from ancient and medieval Indian history put together. So roughly, the modern Indian history accounted for about 50% of the questions. 50% of the questions from the entire 3 components of history. And similarly, in 2015, 12 questions were asked, of which 8 questions were from modern Indian history. And take a look at the number of questions in 2018. In 2018, altogether 14 questions were asked from history, of which 12 were from modern Indian history. There were only 2 from ancient Indian history and medieval Indian history put together. So clearly, in 2012, a large number of questions came from modern Indian history. So aspirants may have thought that UPSC is emphasizing only on the modern Indian history, and the next year, that is in 2019 also, the UPSC might ask questions only from modern Indian history, and therefore they might have given preference only for reading modern Indian history. But all of a sudden, UPSC changed its gears and asked the least or very less number of questions from modern Indian history. This is what I mean by giving the students an element of a surprise. This is and this has been the nature of UPSC examination. So in 2019, 13 questions came from history, of which the modern India accounted for only 5 questions. So a majority, that is from ancient Indian history, 4 questions were asked, and from medieval Indian history, 4 questions were asked. So a majority of the questions were from ancient and medieval Indian history in 2019. The point is, till 2018, more number of questions came from modern Indian history. So naturally, the students might have thought that the UPSC is asking questions and may ask questions only from modern Indian history. They might have read only modern Indian history and they might have neglected ancient and medieval Indian history. But all of a sudden, UPSC shifted its gears, asked less number of questions from modern Indian history and increased the weightage of ancient and medieval Indian history. So this is what I mean by taking the students by surprise. So almost all the times, UPSC does this particular trick. So right from 2019 onwards, the weightage of the ancient Indian history and medieval Indian history has been consistently increasing. So take a look at the questions that were asked in 2023. Altogether, 14 questions were asked, of which modern India accounted for only 3, whereas 11 questions from ancient and medieval Indian history put together. So in the last couple of years, we can see in this table itself that UPSC is asking a large number of questions from ancient and medieval Indian history. So therefore, students should not be neglecting any topic of history, that is any aspect of history. They should rather give importance to all the aspects of history. Maybe in the next year, UPSC, that is in 2024 prelims, UPSC once again may change gears and start asking more number of questions from modern Indian history. This is what I mean by taking the students by surprise. Now let us go into the details of the questions. So let us start discussing the ancient Indian history. We discuss the ancient Indian history in about 8 chapters. The first chapter is the Stone Age. The second chapter is the Indus Valley civilization. The third chapter is the Vedic age or Vedic civilization. So it was during this period that the Vedas were compiled. Then is the age of the Mahajanapadas. So it was during this period 16 large-sized kingdoms came into existence. It was also during this time period a new set of religions also began to emerge. For example, Buddhism, Jainism, Ajivika, Charvaka, etc. All of these new religions began to take birth during this time period, around 600 BC. Mauryas ruled between 300 BCE to 200 BCE, not the exact date, but around this time period. So Mauryas happened to be the first empire builders of India. Then we will be discussing, once after the decline of the Mauryas, we call this as the post-Mauryan period. Then the post-Mauryan period lasted between 200 BCE to 300 CE. Then thereafter we will be discussing the Guptas. Then after the decline of the Guptas, we discuss the post-Gupta period. This classification is purely for our analytical convenience. So we will be discussing the ancient Indian history in about 8 chapters. The last topic which I have included is under the category that is miscellaneous. So questions framed on different topics of ancient Indian history, that is from one chapter, the chapter 1 to 8 chapter. Topics taken from different chapters of ancient Indian history are clubbed under the category miscellaneous. Let us take a look at the questions that were asked from all of these 8 chapters in the last 10 years, that is from 2014 to 2023. If you take a look at this table, clearly the 4th chapter, that is the age of the Mahajanapadas, appears to be the favorite topic of UPSC, because a large number of questions, that is, of all the topics, it was this topic from which a large number of questions came. Around 11 questions came in the last 10 years. So on an average, you can say that there was at least one question each year in all of these 10 years from this particular topic. So clearly, this topic becomes very, very important topic for this year prelims as well, because on an average, we see at least one question being asked from this particular area. So therefore, even for this year, that is 2024 prelims, there is a possibility that there may be a question from this particular chapter. Then the least number of questions came from the first chapter, that is the Stone Age. That is, in the last 10 years, only one question came from this particular topic. So therefore, this area may not be very, very important, because in the last 10 years, only one question came in UPSC prelims examination. But take a look at the second chapter, UPS, that is Indus Valley Civilization. So this has been the favorite area of UPSC. At least one question every alternate year, UPSC has asked a question from this particular topic. Let me repeat. If not each year, at least every alternate year, a question came from the second chapter, that is Indus Valley Civilization. So a question came in 2017, a question came in 2019, and a question came in 2021. In the last 2 years, not a single question came from this particular chapter. Since the topic is important, since Indus Valley is a very important topic, and since there were no questions in the last 2-year prelims, there is every possibility that UPSC may end up asking question this year from this particular topic. That is, in 2024 prelims, you can expect a question from Indus Valley Civilization, because the topic itself is very important. So is the case with the third chapter, that is Vedic Age. This has also been a very favorite area of UPSC, but in the last many years, in the last 10 years, only 2 questions came from this particular topic. So one in 2014, the other in 2017. So from 2018 onwards, not a single question came from this particular topic. So therefore, since the topic is important, Vedic civilization is a very, very important area. But since there were not many questions from this particular topic in the last many years, this topic also becomes a very, very important topic for this year prelims. So the first 4 chapters, I would say second, third and fourth chapters are very, very important for this year prelims. And take a look at the Mauryas. Mauryas are very important questions have been asked in UPSC, but on and off. You have questions 1 year, then thereafter there was no question in these 2 years. Then thereafter we have questions for 2 years, then thereafter no question in 2021. Then there was a question in 2022, there was a question in 2023, and therefore, though the topic is very important, therefore, though Mauryas are very important, but since there were questions being asked in the last 2 years, that is in 2022 and 23, I believe that though it is important from the overall perspective, the students may consider skipping this particular topic, this year examination. You have to completely avoid reading it, but you read all topics of ancient Indian history, but give more importance to the second, third, and the fourth chapter. This particular chapter, that is the Mauryas. How about the post-Mauryas? Similar is the case. Post-Mauryas is important, but the point is there were questions in 2022 and 23, and therefore, this may not be so important for this year prelims. And how about the Guptas? Guptas, they are very, very important from the cultural history point of view. Questions have been asked on the Guptas, but in the last 3 years, not a single question came from the Guptas. So 2021, no question was there. 22, no question, and 23, no question. So therefore, it becomes very, very important for this year prelims. Post-Gupta, that is the Harshavardhana's period, then may not be very important since a question already came in 2023, may not be very important for UPSC examination. My take is Indus Valley is important for this year, Vedic civilization is important for this year, age of Mahajanapadas is important for this year. Mauryas may not be very important because for 2 consecutive years, questions were asked from this particular topic, 2022 and 23. And therefore, I encourage the students not to give too much of importance for this particular area. Then post-Mauryas, same is the case. Then the Guptas, I strongly encourage the students to give more importance to this particular topic because of the fact that not many questions came from this particular topic. My advice to the students is read more from those areas from where the questions have not come. So let us discuss the questions asked from the medieval Indian history. So we divide the medieval Indian history into about 6 chapters: the early medieval period, the Delhi Sultanate period, the emergence of regional dynasties such as the Vijayanagara, Bahmani, Kakatiya, etc. And then we'll discuss the Mughals. Then we'll discuss the Marathas. Then we'll discuss, of course, the Bhakti and the Sufi movement. Then the questions framed from all of these topics, that is from topic 1 to topic 8, that is the questions framed by UPSC from all of these topics are clubbed together and discussed under the category miscellaneous. If you take a look at this table, clearly in the last 10 years, a number of questions came from the Mughals. That is 8 questions were asked from the Mughals in the last 10 years. So on an average, you can say that if not each year, at least every alternate year, there have been questions on the Mughals in the prelims examination. So since in 2023, no question on the Mughals, you can, or the aspirants can expect a question from this particular topic. They can expect a question from this particular topic, but you get, we really cannot guess it, but this is my educated guess. Very interestingly, this topic, the 3rd chapter, that is regional dynasties, has assumed great importance in the last many years. Since 2016, at least one question began to be asked by UPSC each year. 7 questions came, and particularly in the last 7 years, 7 questions came from this particular chapter. So this chapter has assumed great significance in the last couple of years. Maybe the trend might continue this year as well, and you may expect more number of questions because in the last many years, questions were not asked from these topics, and hence we may expect the same trend to continue couple of more years. You might get the questions from this topic in this prelims as well. In the last 10 years, ironically, not a single question came from the Marathas. But this is a very important topic. And therefore, there is every possibility that UPSC might end up asking questions from this particular area. So these, I think, are the very important areas from medieval Indian history. So how about the last chapter, the Bhakti and the Sufi movement? Every once in 2 years or once in 3 years, there have been questions. Since a question was asked only in 2022, we may or we may not get a question from this particular topic. So that is my take on Bhakti and Sufi movement. So on the whole, weightage of ancient and medieval India in the entire history component has gone up. We can expect the same trend to continue even in this prelims examination. But how long this trend continues, we really do not know. But ideally, the students should be well prepared in all the three components of history, that is ancient, medieval and modern Indian history. I recommend the students to give importance to chapter number 3, chapter number 4 and chapter number 5. And as far as medieval Indian history is concerned. Then come to modern Indian history. Each year, half the questions from history were from modern Indian history till a couple of years ago. So till 2018, a majority of the questions that are asked from history were from modern Indian history. But from 2019, as I just told you, this trend has changed. Now, less and less number of questions are being asked from modern Indian history. So we discuss the modern Indian history in about 8 chapters. One is the first chapter, Advent of Europeans. The second is the British conquest of India. Third, the British administrative structure and policies. Fourth is the revolts and movements, the various revolts that broke out in India in response to the British policies will be discussed in this particular chapter. That is, we see the 1857 revolt. In this particular chapter, we also discuss the peasant movements, we also discuss tribal movements, etc., in this particular topic. Then we'll of course discuss the socio-religious reform movement. We'll go into the details of this particular topic. Then, very, very important is the national movement. How about the last topic, post-independence history? Not many questions were asked, but some time ago in 2018, 2 questions came from the post-independence history. These were asked mostly from the current affairs aspects. Miscellaneous, the same story. So, if a question is framed from various topics, then we club that under the category of miscellaneous. In the last 10 years, lion's share was occupied by the national movement, the 6th chapter. So, majority of the questions were asked from this chapter only. In the last 2-3 years, questions did come from this topic, but the questions also began to be asked from those areas which were not given much of an importance. Say, for example, take the look at the first chapter. In the last many years, from 2014 to 2020, no question came from this particular topic. But all of a sudden, you see questions being asked in 2021, 22, and in 23. So this is what I mean by giving an element of a surprise. The UPSC usually keeps asking questions from those areas which it has not asked in the last couple of years. So if that be the case, not a single question came from this particular chapter in the last 10 years. That is British conquest of India. That is how British went about conquering different parts of India. On that particular part, not a single question came. So therefore, this year there is every possibility that question may come from this particular topic. Similar is the case with the 4th chapter, that is the revolts and the movements. So in the last couple of years, 2021, 22, 23, not a single question came. So therefore, it becomes important for this year prelims. Similar is the case with the socio-religious reform movement. That is, the socio-religious, not a single question came from 2 years, 2022 and 23. And therefore, this topic also becomes very, very important. So apart from national movement, which will anyway remain very important, apart from the national movement, these 3 areas, I would say, are important this year prelims. That is, 2nd chapter, British conquest of India, the 4th chapter, revolts and movements, and the 6th chapter, socio-religious reform movement. I hope this analysis would be of some help to you. We shall continue with this exercise in our future classes as well. Do subscribe to our channel. Thank you.